Welcome in to another episode of the Fourth and Goal podcast. It's been a little bit, but we are back.
Hell yeah. Happy holidays. Happy New Year. Merry Christmas to everyone out there. We're loving it. Let's go.
Yeah, now, we are sad because there's only 1 week left of regular season football, and then we're playoffs. I mean, playoffs are great, but it means the ride is almost coming to an end. How do you feel about that, Rob?
Dude, it always strikes me like how fast this season is. The NFL season really is like 4 months of just jam-packed awesomeness, and then you're just off season. It's a bummer, but you know what? The playoffs are a hell of a time, so that'll be fun too.
Yeah, I think it's what makes football such a great sport to constantly watch. Like, I love all sports, but I could never watch every game my team plays of a hockey season, a baseball season, a basketball season. But you bet your ass I'm watching every single Detroit Lions game.
True, and I was talking actually last night watching some of the college football games. There was a play where it was a 4th down and they needed to convert on the last drive for Michigan. And it was one of those things where like, damn, their entire season is coming down to this one play, to this one snap. And like that doesn't really happen in too many other sports. I guess you have like penalty kicks in soccer and stuff, but it really is that like building of intensity to like this one moment, and then there's that, they're in the huddle, then they break, and it's really mounting to that one fucking play that I think really captures the intensity of the NFL unlike any other sport.
Yeah, you sometimes can get it in basketball if you have like a 1-point game with no time left, but like that's really it. Maybe I guess also if it's like bases loaded, 2 outs. Like there are situations.
But there's no time in baseball, so it makes it feel like you always have a chance till the last pitch, right?
Yeah, technically you could just foul the ball off and it's the same set again. 100%.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, the college football games, they were pretty crazy. Like that Michigan-Alabama game going to OT. Like, what a game.
Well, and speaking of going to OT, I hate to bring it up, but what better way to start our podcast with you wearing your Lions jersey, agreeing that this Michigan-Bama overtime was just stellar, absolutely phenomenal. What about the NFL overtime, in particular, that officiating call or perhaps the 2-point conversion call that might have been a result of the NFL overtime rules? Before I go any further, let me hand it over to Drew because I'm sure you got something to say about it.
Yeah, these are two different questions. The first is NFL overtime, and NFL overtime is fucking stupid. Like, the reason coaches go for 2 in these situations is because they know their offense may never get to see the field again. Look no further than Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills against the Chiefs in one of the greatest playoff games of all time, and one of the greatest performances of all time from Josh Allen, only to lose because he wasn't allowed back on the field.
Or Matt Ryan against Tom Brady in that Super Bowl, which I loved because Tom Brady just had all the momentum. They get the ball, they go and score, and that was that. But yeah, I agree. It is a bit bizarre, especially when you compare it to the college product.
Yeah, like, I'm very much of the opinion it should be almost like a hybrid with the, like, NHL, and you'll understand what I mean, where it's like the points you score in overtime don't count. Like, I don't want it to be a position where it's like, oh, you won, like, 53-50, but 20 of those points were scored in overtime. Right? Like, no.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
It should be like it's a 20-20 tie. OT win goes here. Or like soccer, how it's like when it goes to penalty shootouts, it's like those goals don't count. It's like, no, it was a 2-2 game, but here's the parentheses, like the shootout.
Interesting. I mean, I agree to a degree, but then when you look at like the over-unders or like, for instance, Corbin, or I forget his name, Corbin, the running back from Michigan last night, scored the touchdown, which then put him into the lead for all-time Michigan running backs, right? And so it's like, how do you not count it? I don't know.
I'm just saying, it's like, I understand the statistical problem. Like, this is what a lot of people might argue. Like, because there are college football games where the teams just keep scoring, and all of a sudden it's like, the game ended like 77-70, but it's like it actually was like a 30-30 game or whatever the heck it is. And so it's like, yeah, we don't need scoring in overtime to exceed scoring in regulation, but like, fine, just have it so the best team wins. Like, it should be a shot for shot. Like, the NFL overtime, they've obviously done better by making it so at least you need a touchdown. It's better than it was. That's not saying it's good. Either way, let's move on from the overtime because what really matters is the fucking horrendous call at the end of that Lions game. Oh my fucking God, shit, balls, ass, tits, whatever the hell. Sorry, kids, if you're listening. But my God, did the NFL screw that up? Did those Brad Allen's crew screw it up? I'm happy they got demoted from the playoffs because they deserve it. That was an awful call. Like, it's one thing to get a call wrong in live play. I get it. It happens. But this isn't a live play call. This is literally a player coming to you and saying, I am eligible, and you getting that wrong after the head coach explained to you, this is what we're going to be doing in this situation, and you screw it up. And then you don't even have the gall. Sorry, I know I'm going on end. You don't even have the gall to own up to it. There's an umpire in Major League Baseball. This was back in, I think, 2010. Armando Galarraga.
The perfect game that never was.
Yeah, he pitched effectively a perfect game. 8 2/3 innings, ground out. The game's over, but the ump calls him safe. Clearly, video replay. It was James Joyce. Yes, clearly, video replay shows he was out. But
by a country mile,
James Joyce came out and said, "I was wrong. I made the wrong call. I screwed this up. I am sorry." And I respect James Joyce. I respect the hell out of him remember, that's a Detroit Tigers pitcher too. Detroit Lions, Detroit Tigers, it just goes together. Sorry, Detroit.
It's a very Detroit thing to have happen to them, of course.
It's this situation where, at least own that you really fucked up and you fucked up a game and you fucked up a situation for a lot of players, like James Joyce did. And James Joyce is a great umpire.
Oh, yeah, he was great. And then, him crying, them shaking hands, the next game, that was, there's even a whole Wikipedia page dedicated to that game now. And the difference there, of course, is like you said, that's an in the moment, in a live action play, mistakes are made, right? And then he owned up to it. This was a procedural element. And at first, I wasn't too sure. I thought it might have been the player's fault for not really getting the ref's attention. But then I went through the Zapruder tape, and it was like, okay, Dan Campbell did notify the officials that they're going to do this double substitution eligibility thing. You see, I didn't realize this the first time, but you see Jared Goff go up to 68 and be like, you're going to have to go declare. Yeah. He runs over there, he declares, right, with the other ones, and the ref clearly was just somewhere else. And I agree, I'm glad this team got demoted. I do think it's egregious that the NFL or somebody doesn't apologize, but you don't see Roger Goodell apologizing for anything, so let's not get a little bit too excited there. But I agree, there's just no room for this at that level when it's games on the line. That fucked the Lions so hard in terms of the playoff picture and a lot of those things, which we'll cover in a little bit. So the ramifications and things.
We would have locked up the 2 seed and been fighting for 1 seed this week. Instead, we're effectively locked into 3 seed, which is an extra round where you have to go to the road.
Dude, and the thing that blew my mind the most about that is in the post-game ceremony, the discussion with the press, I forget what it's called, and there was some dumbass reporter that was like, Dan Campbell, you seem pretty stressed right now. What is the cause? Why are you... I can see why these players and coaches fucking hate that, because it's you go to the press conference and some dumbass who, has no idea what's going on asks you, why are you stressed? It's what the fuck do you think I'm doing out here? Of course I'm stressed. Why do you want to know I'm stressed? Yeah, exactly. That was his response.
Yeah.
I hate to lose. Yeah. Wouldn't you be stressed, David? You called him out by name. Man. But you know what? And the thing is, that potentially blows Dan Campbell's run for Coach of the Year, right? Because people now second guess the 2-point conversion. And I do want to comment on this a little bit, because I agree that going for 2 was the right call at the time with the momentum in that play was genius. But I think when that flag hits and you get pushed back to the 7, you got to just kick the extra point and take it to overtime then. You've lost the momentum, especially once you get bailed out of that interception with another flag on the Cowboys. Just kick the extra point, go to OT, have your defense hold them or have your offense take over and go score another touchdown. I just think they lost all the momentum there, and it was no longer a sound decision. I agree it was the first play. Then after that, I think he got a little greedy.
Yeah, I think with the 4th and 7, one, I think Jared Goff knew that was a free play. Like, I watched that live. I was streaming it live, and I literally said when it happened, I'm like, it's a free play. It's a free play. Like, offside. It was very clear. So, being bailed out, I do understand. 4th and 7, maybe not go for it, but I think Dan Campbell's the type of coach, and I respect this about him, and he owns it, and this is who he is. He's like, I don't like to let someone else beat me. I want to beat them. And that's the mentality. Right. And he's sitting there and saying, we just carved through this defense like butter that entire drive.
I really did.
And like every play worked. Every play thus far had worked.
Sam Laporta hit like 2 big ones. Amon-Ra had a big one. Great drive.
Yeah.
Great drive.
And so it's like, you know what? We don't want to give them a chance to win this game. We don't want to have to go home knowing that we gave it back to them. We played cowardly, and they beat us. And this is something else when you're a team like Detroit and you have an all-world offense and a mediocre at best defense, that's how you need to play. You need to trust your best players, and guess what? Your best players are on offense.
No, I agree, and that kind of attitude is what gets you there in the first place, right? When my great uncle fought Joe Louis in the heavyweight championship of the world, he was winning through 14 rounds, and as they entered the 15th round, his coach was like, "Billy Conn, duck and weave, you'll be heavyweight champion of the world." Billy Conn looks at his coach and goes, "I didn't come here to be a heavyweight champion of the world. I came here to knock Joe Louis the fuck out." So he goes into the 15th round with that like mentality. Of course, gets knocked out, changes our fortunes forever. But the thing is like he's thinking like that all along, right? You don't all of a sudden in the 15th round of the heavyweight championship of the world change your attitude, just like Dan Campbell is not going to back down because of a flag. So I do understand that mentality. But I think we spent enough time.
Sick flex, bro.
Yeah, no, I definitely got to throw out the Billy Conn thing at least once a week. But let's move on to our injury roundtable. I think a couple big ones to note here. Maybe the biggest is Bradley Chubb, the defensive heart of the Dolphins, went down with a torn ACL. We'll talk a little bit more about that game, but that's a huge loss for them if they even had a chance at this point. The other one is CMC, although I'm not too concerned about that one. It sounds like it's more of a precautious injury. He had a bit of a calf injury. They were like, sit the rest of this game, and we don't need you next week either. They have a bye locked up. It's like, give him 3 weeks. I think he'll be fine. The other one that may be a bit more concerning is Devonta Smith. I haven't read too much about it, but he did leave the game in a boot. And of course, TJ Hawkinson, who tore his ACL. The Vikes are not necessarily a contender, but again, that's a bummer of an injury at the end of the season there.
Yeah, I mean, some of these might have some of a play in it, but again, like a lot of games this week and a lot of these teams, I mean, yeah, it's win or loss. Like when we talk the Dolphins, it's like, okay, yeah, but they've already locked in the playoffs. Like there's not too many major injuries with teams that are like, win or you're in, lose and you're out. So that's always good to hear. But we are running super behind after that long Lions chat, as we knew we would. But let's get into, Rob, do you want to take us through who has clinched for the playoffs?
Yeah, we'll start with the AFC. So the Baltimore Ravens have obviously clinched the division title in the AFC North, which I have been saying since the beginning of the year and throughout the year is the toughest division. We might even have 3 teams from that division making the playoffs right now. They have clinched the number 1 seed and that first round bye, as well as the home field advantage. We have the Chiefs, who have secured the division title and the 3rd seed. And the Browns are in the playoffs, but believe it or not, haven't actually secured the division yet because it is so tough. And they have a game on the road against Cincinnati. And the Dolphins have also clinched a playoff berth, but going against the Bills this week have not clinched the division.
Yeah, so what do you can't clinch the division because the Ravens got it, but the Browns have clinched the 5 seed.
Yeah, no, sorry, I'm an idiot. Of course. But that just goes to show you, man, that division is fucking tough, man. It really is.
I think just the craziest one is that the Bills, the amount of variance that could happen. The Bills could literally end this week in the 2 seed or could end this week missing the playoffs.
It's wild. It's wild. And like there's too much calculus that goes into that. But, you know, they just need to win or tie or have Pittsburgh lose or tie or Jacksonville. So it's a pretty good chance that Buffalo makes the playoffs.
Yeah.
Right? But yeah, there is a scenario in which they lose and Pittsburgh and Jacksonville win, and
everything goes against them. They could miss, but like They're the most likely 2 seed, but they could also miss the playoffs. 1 week left. That'll be an exciting game, and especially because we'll know what their loss alternative is when that game comes on, because it's the Sunday nighter.
Yeah, exactly. I think the AFC South is way more interesting, honestly, because you have Houston and Jacksonville, as well as the Colts, all in the hunt, both for the division and playoff berths. You have the Texans playing the Colts. The Titans lost Will Levis, so you got Jacksonville going up against, I believe, Ryan Tannehill and the Titans there. And again, a lot of calculus involved, but pretty much any one of those teams is eligible to both win the division title and then, depending on what happens with the Browns and the Steelers, be eligible for a wild card. And I don't think anyone saw that coming, 2 teams from that division making the playoffs.
No, we all thought that was the worst division in football, but clearly it's not. 3 teams going to finish above 500. But either way, why don't you take us through the NFC picture?
All right, jumping over to the NFC, of course, we have the San Francisco 49ers having their division title clinched. The number 1 seed, the bye, the home field advantage. I believe Teddy Bruschi the other day was talking about this is the greatest advantage of all in sports. 1 less chance for the refs to screw you over. 1 less chance for some flukiness to happen. I agree that this home field advantage and that bye is absolutely crucial, not to mention the rest that you get for that extra bye week. Your Detroit Lions clinching the NFC North Division title. Attaboy, attaboy. First time in what? I know, but what? Since 1980 something, before your time on this planet?
No. I was a couple months old.
Okay, nice. Well, congratulations. I was like 4. So, you know what? Neither one of us remember that at all.
Nope.
The Cowboys have clinched a playoff berth with the Eagles, but I don't believe either one of them have actually won the title of the division yet, which is pretty cool to see entering the last game of the week. And then the last team that has clinched a playoff berth are the Los Angeles Rams. Again, I don't think a lot of people had that in their bingo scorecard at the beginning of the year, which of course leaves us with the 2 shittiest divisions, the NFC North, the remaining teams, but more importantly, the NFC South, which god awful. Again, the Falcons play the Saints again this week. I think they've done that. I feel like they've played each other 5 times this week. I don't think I've ever picked it right. Like, what the hell? The Buccaneers lost to the Saints at home. Like, the fuck is happening in this division?
Let me be very clear. Nothing else matters in the NFC. All the teams that have a shot at the NFC have already made it. Whether it be the Packers, the Vikings, the Seahawks, the Falcons, the Buccaneers, the Saints, or whoever the fuck is in there. None of them are competing. They are nowhere close to the same level as these other NFC teams.
It's the 4 teams in the NFC that are leaps and bounds the others. Lions, Cowboys, Eagles, 49ers, and then I don't think anyone else has a chance.
Credit, I think they could be the sleeper in there. They are the sleeper in there, and that's why they've locked it up. But, like, it's 4 teams, then the Rams fit into that, like, could be a sleeper, and then it's another drop-off to everyone else. So, who cares? You make the playoffs, good for you. You get an extra game. You maybe get some ticket sales, some viewership, some bonuses, but you ain't doing nothing.
Yeah, exactly. And that division, I don't even want to spend more time on it.
No, let's move on.
I think Green Bay has a shot. But quickly, I do want to talk about You think which team from the NFC North, besides the Lions, makes the playoffs?
None.
Really?
None. I think the Bears beat the Packers.
Knocking them both out.
Yeah, it knocks everything off. Like, I think that's this is the same thing that happened last year. The Packers were win or you're in on the final game of the season, and the Lions just said, "Fuck you." And I think the same thing's gonna happen. The Bears are just gonna go in and say, "Fuck you." And this is and that's the one thing. Very quickly, I do love that the NFL has switched to this. You always play a divisional opponent in that final week, because it does create a little bit of that, like, we don't care if we have nothing to play for. We are playing to fuck you. We are playing to ruin your lives because we care about your misery.
So does that mean you have 3 NFC West teams? Does that mean you're taking the Seahawks in that wild card there?
I'm either taking 3 NFC West teams or 2 NFC South teams.
God, please don't. That can't be real.
I know.
Speaking of, let's get into last week's extravaganza. Unfortunately, we missed the pod, so we didn't get to talk too much about week 16. But week 17, I think we need to start out with the fucking Eagles, man. What's happening to this team? The Cardinals
Dude, this is
on the road?
like
Or sorry, like Cardinals being on the road, coming
yeah,
into
like
Philly and fucking winning that game?
why are we that surprised? In all honesty, why are we that surprised? Like you look at
It's the Super Bowl hangover team. These teams are always
but
pretty bad the next
you look
year.
at last year. Look at the Eagles schedule last year. It was one of the weakest schedules ever. Look at their
Right,
playoff
right.
schedule. They went up. They had a bye, and then they
Yep.
went up against the Giants, and then they went up
Yep.
against the quarterbackless 49ers.
Yeah, it's true. It's
Right?
true. It was a cakewalk.
And so it's like they had one of the easiest schedules to the Super Bowl. Now they put up a good matchup in the Super Bowl, but this entire season, since the start, we've kind of said, hey, the Eagles don't look that great. And it's the same conversation we had last year. But this year, they had a tougher schedule. And now we're
Right.
seeing what happens. They're losing games like they did last year. This team had the easiest schedule in the history of easy schedules last year and finished like, was it 13 or 4, 14 and 3 or something? But they were losing games to the Commanders. They were losing games to
Yeah, true.
like
Yeah, it's well. Speaking of Super Bowl hangover teams, normally it's the loser, but the winner, the Chiefs, man, they're also looking really bad. They managed to scrape this game out against the Bengals, but I watched that whole game. That was really down to the wire there, and they do not impress me. Their offensive line is deceived. They have no playmakers. Travis Kelce spending way too much time dating Taylor Swift and making Allstate commercials. And Mahomes is like a pouty bitch these days. They just do not seem, they remind me a little bit, and I hate to say it, of the Golden State Warriors, the way they're kind of relying on their credentials. They're getting old. They're like not focused and they're like chippy and everyone's yelling at each other. I don't know what's up with this team, but I don't have a lot of confidence in them come the playoffs.
yeah, I think what it is that the Chiefs kind of said Patrick Mahomes is otherworldly. We don't
Yep.
need to put receivers around him. We don't
Right.
need because he has Travis Kelce, whatever. We don't need to have an amazing offensive line because he can run, and we've seen that. Like, and so we're gonna focus on our defense and getting like our making sure Pat gets paid, making sure Travis gets paid, etc. But thing is, Travis Kelce's 34 years old. I don't think this has anything to do with Taylor Swift. I honestly think it has nothing to do with it. I think
You're
that,
just defending yourself from the Swifties there.
no, it's just in general. I think like
Dude, he's old, right?
no
That's an old
receiver.
age in the NFL. Yeah.
no receiver is successful at that age. Guess who else is like 34 years old? Julio Jones.
Gronkowski. Yeah,
Gronkowski.
who had
And
two
all-
touchdowns, by the way.
Yeah,
And Gronkowski's sitting in a warm booth every day talking about, on a mic, right?
like all these guys who are doing nothing and have done nothing in the NFL for years, and Kelsey's the same age as these guys. Yet, and like we talk about Adam Thielen. Oh, Adam Thielen's old as shit. Adam Thielen is younger by a couple of years than Travis Kelce.
I didn't know that. Yeah, I would have put him right around the same age.
Yeah, I think he's
Old
32.
man Adam.
Kelsey is 34. Like,
Right, and we're all shocked by Thielen's performance. Yeah,
yeah, and so I
and he tapered off hard at the end of the year. Adam Thielen, he was hot in the
yeah.
beginning, and he hasn't scored a touchdown in like
But-
6 or 8 games.
But that's it. They kind of just said we're going to
Yep.
put a really good defense, and their defense is very good. But
Yep.
they neglected the offense. They trusted that Kelsey could keep going. They trusted that Mahomes could do it without the offensive line help, without more receiver help. And guess what? They're getting somewhat burned for it. I think they'll be back. I think they'll realize, hey, it's fine. Our offense is what we're built on. Let's let Chris Jones walk. Let's let some defenders go. Let's move some assets. Let's go sign T. Higgins. Let's go pay an offensive lineman. I'm not worried about them long term, but this might not be their year.
Yeah, but it is still hard to bet against Mahomes in the playoffs, so we'll see. But I do think there is a by far better team right now, the best team in the league. They have come on so hard. That is the Ravens, as you've been calling all week, and you helped me win some money this week because I believed in it. So the Dolphins suck against good teams. We found that out when they just got absolutely trounced by the Ravens, and Lamar Jackson, I think, just took the MVP away. That's a hell of a fucking scary team. They have everybody and anybody steps up on that team like they didn't miss a beat, right? Their wide receivers, their running backs, their defensive backs, they're just deep and tough, and they got a chip on their shoulder because nobody fucking believes in them somehow still. That they're now getting the hype after these two, trouncing the Niners on Monday Night Football, and you've been a big fan. I, of course, can't because I fucking hate them, but they scare the shit out of me. I'll give you that.
I think I've been calling the Ravens as the best team in the AFC since about week 7.
Yeah, exactly.
It was pretty early that I crowned them. I'm like, this team's good. I think it was when they trounced the Lions, and I'm like, I watched that game, and I'm like, oh, this team legit.
And I don't know how an MVP winner can make the leap, but man, Lamar looks like he's made a leap this year. Like he is playing a different level of ball in the way he scrambles, but keeps his head upfield, which is something he didn't do during that MVP winning season. And he's put on several performances that locked up the MVP for him. And again, this is in a really tough division, right? You had Flacco winning another game against the Jets. My Steelers staying alive on the road in Seattle, which was a hell of an impressive win, and keeping Mike Tomlin with a winning season regardless. And so, hey, more credit to the Ravens, but also beware of Steel Town. We're still coming, baby. Kenny Pickett has been cleared from health reasons, and we're still going Mason Rudolph, baby. Let's go.
You know what? Because we are running behind. Talking about the Steelers and them coming, let's get into our picks. I think this is a good time to talk about the main things. And one thing you'll notice, you and I differ on the Steelers game. In fact, I've taken the Ravens as my lock of the week against the Steelers. Now, I understand the Ravens have already locked in the bye. I understand that the Steelers are favored, and rightfully so, because they have everything to play for. The Ravens have nothing. But I give you 2 reasons. One, the Ravens, if they can hold the Steelers out of the playoffs, they will do it. Like, it might be their bench, but they could be trying their ass off, 1. And 2, I have said all season long, and I will not waver from this position, the Steelers will finish 9-8. I have said it, I have banged this drum, and it's happening.
Since week 1, you really haven't. To be honest, there's a really good chance this Ravens team, even their backups, like you said, could be out despite the Steelers. They always are. Obviously, we're going on the road to Baltimore. That's a tough place to play in the winter. I had to go with the Steelers here. Obviously, this is our playoff shots on the line. I think we can go and take this. Mason Rudolph is the future of the franchise. Sorry, I can't even hold it together over here. But he's playing well, man. He really is. And so I think we're running well now. Our offensive line is coming together. We still have a little bit of attitude problem with the wide receivers, but that defense is unstoppable. And like you said, you can't call the Steelers right. I can't because I'm biased. Hopefully, we're split again this week. Let's see. I do love that this was your lock of the week, though, because it's one of those things like I always pick against the Lions and pick the Cowboys to win on Turkey Day because that's just what happens on Turkey Day, right? You're picking the Steelers because that's just what's going to happen, right? Like this is a karmic selection and not necessarily an X's and O's one.
100%. 100%. I understand that this is not the likely outcome, but this is if the football gods are doing what football gods do. It's that the Steelers, under Mike Tomlin, will have a winning record, and the Steelers without Ben Roethlisberger will finish 9-8. Done.
Indeed. So let's look again at the AFC North. Another one that we've always picked differently throughout the year, but we're aligned on this year are the Bengals hosting the Cleveland Browns at home. Tell me why you're taking Cincinnati.
I mean, it's not that exciting. It's because Cincinnati is just like, let's fuck it. And the Browns are going to be like, no, we need to rest everyone. We've been beat up enough, and we already have the 5 seed on lock. That's it.
That fixed.
I think the main matchups to talk about, and we'll go into these ones, because these are the ones that I think matter the most. Texans at Colts. Falcons at Saints. Bills at Dolphins. There's obviously other games that have implications, like the Packers and Bears, like the Seahawks, Cardinals, I get it. But I think these 3 are the 3 games where win and you have either significantly better playoff position or you're in the playoffs, lose, you might be out.
Yeah, and let's start with that Bills-Dolphins game because me, you, and Vegas all picked the same. I think we all know why, right? The Dolphins are bad against good teams. They just lost the Chubb for the year, and the Bills have been rolling, playing really well. It was a tough win for them, but they have really come together and come on as the season goes. And I just think this is their division, and they're pissed. And talk about another nobody believes in us team. Everyone's talking about the Ravens. Everyone's talking about Joe Flacco and the Browns. Ain't nobody talking about Josh Allen and his Buffalo Bills. And I think that's a pissed off team heading over to Miami. There's no, it's on the same coast. There's no time difference. That's not too much of an away game because Miami fans suck. So I think that they go in there and stomp.
The Bills, I mean, the last couple weeks weren't the best by the Bills, but before that, they were rolling. And they still won those two games. Like this team was counted out by everyone. And they have a chance at the 2 seed if they win this. And I don't see a world where since they fired Ken Dorsey, they haven't done anything wrong. And I don't see a world where this is the game that they throw away.
Me too.
I have the
me
Bills
too.
winning.
I just think
that's it. But let's move on.
The other game we're all aligned on for some reason is the Falcons against the Saints in the Superdome. It's the Superdome, yeah,
yes,
in New Orleans. We all picked the Saints, and that I fucking hate that, right? Because I just have no confidence in the Saints. I think we'll do a little debrief next week, but I just don't know. I don't think I've picked the Falcons right at all year long. And they're just going to go in and beat the Saints. It's how this is going to work because the NFC South is garbage, and nobody knows what's going on. But somehow we've all picked the Saints.
This is me picking a home team. I don't know who I want to pick. I'm picking home. That's it.
I call this the old coin flip.
Yeah.
And so now let's get to the one where we're split. I'm with Vegas. You are not. This is the Texans on the road against Indianapolis Colts. You're on the Gardner Minshew, the second train. Tell me why.
It's not even the Gardner Minshew train. I'm on the Shane Steichen train. Like, Shane Steichen all he's shown me this year is he is one of the best offensive minds in football, and he does not get the credit he deserves. Like, the fact that this Colts team is going to finish above 500 with Gardner Minshew as their primary quarterback. Now, I love Gardner Minshew. I love Uncle
Who doesn't?
Nico, but
he's the new Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Yeah, he's definitely one of those guys. But, like, Gardner Minshew is not – we know who he is. This guy doesn't win games. This guy is like the decent fill-in backup when you need him for a week or two. Like, that's who Gardner Minshew is.
Right.
But – they've taken this team to 9-7. This team is one of the most exciting, high-powered offenses in the league with Gardner Minshew. Like, this isn't a team that's winning because of really good defense. In fact, their star defensive player, Shaq Leonard, they literally let go midway through the season. They said, "No, you're out," and they're still 9-7. Like,
I mean, and Jonathan Taylor's coming on too. Like, running game's really getting stronger as the season goes.
I just trust this offense more than I do the Texans. I think the Texans have an extremely bright future, but Tank Dell is not there anymore. The offense has not looked good. I think
Nico Collins might have got hurt too.
He might, last week. So it's like I just don't trust Houston. I think they're the hot team. I think they're the sexy team. I think they're the team everyone wants to pick. I think the Colts are the team that has done it constantly all year. They're at home. I'm taking them.
No, this is the kind of game where I would take Colts plus points, right? Like, give me Colts plus 7.5, plus 10.5. I do think the Texans are going to win this game. Same reason you're picking the coach. I like DeMeco Ryans over there. I think he's a player's coach. I think they're buying into it. I think C.J. Stroud might be the next big thing. He really has flashes of talent. And so I want to see them. And again, this is a bit of a, I guess, not an X's and O's pick, but more, I just want to see the Texans in the playoff, get them some experience, and then see what happens from there.
Yep. And the last one, because I think this matchup will lead well into best bets with yourself, Bookie Bob. But for the first time this season, I have picked against the Lions. And you picked for them. And I picked against Vegas, picking against the Lions.
Yeah, you did. And that's shocking after that Vikings trouncing at home against the Green Bay Packers. And with whatever quarterback they started to start over Nick Mullins for some reason.
Hall, yeah.
What was that about? Yeah, oh yeah, for sure. Which probably gives him a better chance. He's got a little Brett Favre in him. He'll throw 3 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, and it'll be a hell of a. He's a gunslinger. He's an old-fashioned gunslinger, that Nick Mullins. But yeah, I mean,
3 touchdowns, 3 picks, 300 yards.
Yeah, exactly. I just don't see it because I think that Vikings team, I think they've just had a rough year. I think their luck's running out. And more importantly, I think the Detroit Lions are pissed. So even though this game really doesn't matter to them because they're a 3 seed locked up, I just think they're going to go at home and make a statement here and roll into the playoffs with some momentum and a win.
So I thought the same because I thought if the Cowboys lost, Lions won, they would be the 1 seed because I knew they previously held the tiebreak against the Eagles. I found out because of the loss to the Cowboys, that was going to be the tiebreaker. But by losing to that, they likely won't hold the tiebreak against the Eagles, so they literally need like Cowboys and Eagles to both lose while the Lions win. I don't think that's likely. I could see a world where Dan Campbell sits there and says, like, he's a player's coach. He knows the guys might want rest. I know they're angry. I know they're hungry. I could see a world where they say, let's hold it in for a week. Let's prepare. We know we're almost definitely playing the Rams. Let's prepare for the Rams. Let's beat their faces off.
And you know what? That's very plausible, and I hope not because that does bring us to best bets with Bookie Bob. So we'll go ahead and start with my pick. As the good fans of this program know, I'm awful at gambling. In particular, I am on a hot streak of note with 0 correct picks since week 10, and that's got to be a record. It is really impressive. You would think, like, literally coin flip wise, statistically, I would get one of these right, but I can't, which means one of my picks are doomed. So I took, just in line with our previous conversation, the Lions and the Texans money line in a parlay for $5, and that's at plus 199. I think that was 2 reasons. As I've already discussed, I think the Lions are pissed off. They're going to go and make a statement, win that game. I think the Texans go on the road and beat this Colts team, which is a bit of an enigma. Maybe not to you, but I still can't get my finger around why they're winning games. And I think it's good value at plus 199. I have a chance to essentially triple my money there. So I got a Lions-Texans parlay. And, of course, it's going to lose because it's the fucking Detroit Lions and the Houston Texans. And why would I ever put money on either one of these teams, let alone together? But that's Uncle Bob for you. Let's go. Bookie Bob.
And
he knows how to pick them.
Take a second. I picked against you on both of those. And
if
you look at our total records, I'm a bit of a better picker than you as well. So I
know this has not been my season. I just narrowly avoided running a beer mile in the toilet bowl of my most expensive keeper fantasy league. So it's not been my year for picking them or gambling or fantasy or fuck it.
Just football in general. Either way, though, to get to my bet. I'm doubling down, tripling down on my statement from the beginning of the year that the Steelers go 9-8. I picked them as my lock of the week, and I put $10 on them money line at plus 1.
I love it.
I
love it.
We know there are some inalienable truths about football. This is one of them.
I love it. And because you can't pick the Steelers right, you're probably going to lose it. Hopefully you do because we're going to the playoffs, baby. But before we close out, I do want to throw out 2. We're going to do a Best Bets with Bookie Bob special next week where we look at our preseason picks and we play some playoff picks and kind of look at some of the odds that have broken down throughout the season and into the playoffs. But there's 2 categories that I just want to quickly shout out. First is this ridiculous comeback player of the year. As those of us, Damar Hamlin was resuscitated, literally died on the field of play last year, brought back. He managed to play a couple football games, an astounding achievement. The man is alive and playing football again. So he was the hands-down favorite for this award up until last week when my man, Joe Flacco, for the Cleveland Browns, went and put up another astonishing game and is somehow in second place, really close to stealing this award. What do you think? Does Joe Flacco going from awful to great deserve it, or Damar Hamlin going from dead to alive?
I love how that's the narrative. No, this is Joe Flacco. I mean, I never thought that Damar Hamlin deserves it. Damar Hamlin's a great story, but I think to win an award like that, you actually gotta do something.
Perform in football?
Yeah. This is not a lifetime achievement award. This is not a life achievement award. This is who has came back from, Joe Flacco came back from literally nothing. I would be fine if Tua won it. Tua's had a decent year, came back from the concussion issues. There's a lot of fine ones, but this ain't one of them.
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, Flacco was working at your local Subway about 6 weeks ago, so it really is a hell of a tale. Some of the memes, though, around this have been great. I saw one where the ambulance came on the field at Buffalo, and Damar Hamlin's number was up there. It was like, damn, you got to do something intense to get your number retired by the local ambulance team.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, the narrative of, like, he was dead, now he's alive. He was shitty, now he's good. Who do we pick? It's like, that's the NFL in a nutshell, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. But
And then the last one...
Go.
Yeah, so quickly, let's just look at the MVP odds. Purdy had this in the bag. Then he threw 4 interceptions against the Baltimore Ravens. Lamar went and showed out 2 weeks in a row. CMC's now hurt. You think it's Lamar's?
Lamar's going to win. CMC should win. That's the end of it. Like, CMC has been so much more dominant than any other running back. No quarterback, in my opinion, has truly earned it. Like, Lamar...
I agree.
Has looked good in certain games, but statistically and overall throughout the season, he's not even as good as in his MVP season.
What about CeeDee Lamb?
Yeah, but again, CeeDee Lamb, partial season. Dak Prescott had a really good partial season, but
no one's been complete like CMC.
Yeah,
Something like 50% of all fantasy play finals in ESPN had CMC on the team. Right? Like, it's never before, like, one player has been so dominant. And I agree, it should be him, but I don't think it will be.
Because I agree. This is a quarterback's award, and it should mostly be. But in years where no quarterback says, this is my award, and when a running back does say it, it should go to that running back. It should go to that wide receiver, whoever it is. But you know what? The NFL has decided nobody who's not a quarterback can ever win this award. That is literally what they're telling us this year.
Yeah, it's pretty lame. But we'll talk more about that next week. We are a bit over time here, so we'll go ahead and wrap it up heading into the last week. Drew, do you want to sign us off?
Yep. Thank you, everyone. We'll have 2 podcasts next week. Please do not miss it. We're trying to grow this channel, make 4th and Goal legit. And remember, we'll be doing this throughout the playoffs and off-season as well, so you don't want to miss it. Let's be involved. Let's see you all, and let's hope Week 18's fun. Later, all.
Go Steelers, baby.